Lou here. Vocaloid history is always so interesting to me. It's fascinating to see how Vocaloid became suddenly so popular or even made a comeback via a much better upgrade. Today, let's highlight some Vocaloids that made a comeback. What I mean by comeback, by the way, is a Vocaloid who was neglected for years and just randomly got a brand new voice bank after all those years of neglect. Though, because vocal synthesizers fucking love popping up out of nowhere, if there is a Vocaloid that got a comeback, it probably won't be here because sadly I can't see into the future. Man, wouldn't that be cool though? Anyway, let's get started.
Tonerion.
Released December 16th, 2011, Tonerion was one of the dozens upon dozens of Vocaloid 3 voice banks released. While Vocaloid 6 is largely a dry spell, Vocaloid 3 was actually highly oversaturated with voice banks more than any other Vocaloid engine, and so it caused a lot, and I mean a lot, of voice banks to be left in the dust. Tonerion for years was considered one of them. The concept for her was based on the moe art style, which was very popular at the time of her creation. For those who don't know or recognize a moe art style, think Clannad, K-On!, and Madoka Magica as an example of moe art style. Basically, cutesy small character with big cutesy eyes and really short. On top of that, they tried to spin on the cyber or futuristic design of Vocaloids like Hatsune Miku by making her an idol 100 years in the future who went back in time to meet idols of today, I guess. Tonerion was largely not really acknowledged though. One is due to the oversaturation I mentioned with Vocaloid 3. 2 is that, let's be honest, her design was extremely messy, and 3 was just that some found she was too soft or nasally. I think that largely depends on your tuning skill, but that's just me, as I've heard some incredible covers with Tonerion V3, like a cover of Melt by Rio made by Prince Kuma. I'm not saying no one used her either. I mean, Kikuo made a demo song with her, so creators were using her, but they weren't pulling the numbers of other Vocaloid 3 voice banks like Yuzuki Yukari, V-Flower, Oliver, or even Gumi English. So at this point, Tonerion was largely believed to be one of those Vocaloids left on a shelf gathering dust, so to speak, and a voice bank only hardcore Vocaloid fans would know, like Cole, Arsloid, or Gachapoid. Cut to about 6 years later when her company Dear Stage would announce they'd be making a new voice bank based off of one of their idols named Yumemi Nemu, with artwork by an artist-director for Kyoto Animation, which was the inspiration for moe in the first place thanks to Clannad and K-On! Except what's this? Alongside Yumemi Nemu, they would announce the return of Tonerion with her. Why do this? Well, as I failed to mention on purpose, but Tonerion shared the same voice provider as Yumemi Nemu, being Yumemi Nemu. I guess they must have figured that they might as well have re-recorded her for Tonerion while she was doing Yumemi. On top of this upgraded voice bank, she'd also receive a new design, and I have to admit that I prefer this one way more than the futuristic maid idol approach. I've actually said this before in a previous video about Forgotten Vocaloids, but she looks like a snowboarder and I kinda love it. Tonerion seems to still have not done as well as Yumemi Nemu did, mainly because of how many people prefer Yumemi's nasally and louder voice over Tonerion's, as it makes for more unique songs. My best example for Yumemi Nemu being Susie's cover of Alien Alien by Nayutalianin. Am I saying that right? I hope I am. Because it shows the poppy expressiveness of Yumemi's unique voice.
Zora Project.
Zola Project, one of the many experimental projects by Yamaha, and while I appreciate it, I sure as hell wish all their experimental Vocaloids got this kind of advertisement. Looking at you, Yamaha, and how you screwed over my girl Sachiko. These 3 were made as an experiment to make a boy band and a series of voice banks. Think like Rin and Len being a complementing duet singer, but with 3 instead, I guess. Kyo was supposed to be the lead singer, Yu was the higher harmonies, and Will was the lower harmonies. Genre-wise, I think they were pretty expansive because Kyo has a really wide range. The cover artist Mio Dio Da Vinci is a great example of Kyo's versatility, so it makes Yu and Will pretty easy to pick up the backup vocals. Except as someone who doesn't have them and instead listens to cover, Yu and Will never really have been viable on their own. Yu sounds a bit lower quality compared to Kyo, and Will sounds too soft that he's often hard to hear. I mean, all together they don't sound bad at all, but alone, Kyo is really the only one who holds up on his own. It wasn't really an issue in their attempts at popularity though, at least from critiques I see online. Another thing to market was that the creator of the Final Fantasy title screen logos, Yoshitaka Amano, did the box art for Zola Project. The box art was quite literally concept art though, and both he and Yamaha explained that this was a base, and people could come up with whatever designs they wanted. The basic idea though seems to be that Yu is the pastel cutesy one, Kyo is the stylish or Mori-styled one, and Will is the seemingly Visual K inspired one. I know the other two have style names I don't really know because I'm honestly not an expert at all in Japanese fashion. I just love me some Jirai K and Gothic Lolita dudes. Because their box art was just a concept, a magazine held a contest to design their own ideas for what Zola Project boys would look like. This included a ton of artists becoming highlights, including K, who designed Hatsune Miku, Luca Megarine, Irin, and Len Kagamine. Considering Kei made our reigning queens, Miku and Luca, I'm not sure what went wrong, but Kei's designs are actually my least favorite from this group. Personally, I prefer Carnelian's design for Yu, Hatahiro's design for Kyo, and actually Amano's design for Will. Everyone's designs are really creative and unique though. I just feel like no one really went out there for Will's Visual K inspiration, which makes me kind of sad because I actually like Visual K a lot as a style. Although Hatahiro's design actually came from the Vocaloid 6 design marketing, but whatever, I still like this design for Kyo. Anyway, so why did Zola Project not do as well if they had so much marketing behind them? I've largely read and heard online that the general consensus with Japanese producers being that boy bands just aren't something independent artists want to work with. Male voice banks already don't do as well as female voice banks, largely due to vocal range issues with vocal synthesizers, up until Synthesizer V anyway, so making 3 male voice banks at once was just a huge risk that sadly didn't pay off. So years went by, Zola Project remaining something only really kept alive by Miodio Da Vinci with their incredible covers of Kyo, my personal favorite being Donut Hole by Hachi for those curious. Cut to June 2020, about 7 years after their voice banks were long forgotten. Yamaha announced that Zola Project would be receiving AI voice banks. For those who don't know, by the way, it's a text-to-speech software created by AI Inc. They had already made speech voice banks for VY1 and VY2, but people thought it would just be that since VY1 and VY2 sadly didn't receive Vocaloid 6 voice banks, which sucks for me because I am actually a huge VY2 fan. So after they announced the return of Zola Project for a text-to-speech software, Yamaha then pulled the rug under us like they always do, and announced that Zola Project would also be receiving a Vocaloid 6 upgrade. Everyone was completely stunned by this news, and honestly, I can't seem to figure out why, but I'm not complaining. New artwork was done by Ryo Fujiwara, whose only professional work I could find was doing some unit artwork for Fire Emblem Heroes. Gonna be honest, I am not a personal fan of these designs. These suit designs with these oversized coats just look really busy and kind of ugly in my personal opinion. I liked that each of the guys had their own personal style before, and even though I know it's unrealistic for boy bands to have their own style, I still think it made them stand out more. If I was in charge of doing their designs, I would have preferred if Yu was Dekorake, Kyo in some kind of Mori style, and Will in Visual K. I think it's a good harmony and kind of different street styles, and you have to admit, the idea of a bunch of different styles coming together in harmony is a cool concept. That's just me though. I get that these are going to be hip and modern fashion aesthetics popular in Japan right now, but I mean, I can still call a style ugly even when it's popular. As for their vocal product, as someone who has Vocaloid 6, they can sound pretty damn good with an expert, but someone new to the engine won't get the exact same experience. I've talked about Vocaloid 6 quite a few times on my channel already, so TLDR, it's incredibly easy for voice banks to sound off-key, and tuning is extremely difficult when they don't handle pitch bends as well as previous voice banks. So far, I haven't gotten much fanfare beyond, "Oh hey Zola Project, we thought we were dead." So I have a bad feeling that these guys will be left in the dust again, but then again it's too early to tell because they only released a few months ago.
Galico.
Who else remembers when every MMD video creator used Galaxy S to show off their models, or just to upload a dance? I sure do, except in the original Galaxy S video, the Galico voice bank isn't actually singing here, but instead her voice provider, Ko Shibasaki. If I'm getting this right anyway, as she was in a group with Lloyd and Deco27 called Galaxy S. From there, Galico was created as a voice bank and thus began a very interesting but confusing marketing tactic for her. On top of the music video showcasing what the vocal range of Galico could be like for her voice bank already. First confusing thing was that she originally was an exclusive prize in the Vocaloid shop for almost 2 years until she properly released in the shop August 5th, 2014. I did cover her prize version a little more in my Lost Vocaloid video, as her prize is somewhat considered lost media even though her prize version and her official Vocaloid 3 voice bank sound pretty much the same to me. At least one of them does, since the Vocaloid 3 release of Galico also contained a blue voice bank which was softer. Think of red like a solid or original voice bank and blue like a soft voice bank. On top of the voice bank at the time, Galico would also receive a custom Blythe doll that I can only find this single image to prove its existence, and a text-to-speech software that was discontinued in 2023. Unlike a lot of voice banks where people can be vocal about why they don't like a voice bank, or it's pretty obvious why, but Galico is one where I can't really find an answer. She's cute, I see people like her design a lot, but specifically her prize design is the one that I see people use a lot, and she's also been easily accessible for years. I think this all just boils down to, again, the oversaturation of Vocaloid 3, but that's just me. A lot, and I mean a lot, of Vocaloid 3 and 4 voice banks just ended up failing miserably because companies left and right wanted a piece of the Hatsune Miku pie. Galico, although clearly a love letter to electropop idols like Perfume, sadly faded into obscurity, although she has been easily available in the Vocaloid shop for years. Cut to July 2024, almost a full decade since Galico's release, where Yamaha once again pulled the rug from under us to announce the return of Galico as a Vocaloid 6 voice bank. Unlike before, where Galico's voice banks were named red and blue, now they're named black and white with completely different design for each voice bank done by a different artist. White was done by the same artist for Zola Project, and black was done by Hatahiro. Personally, I don't really like her white design. I feel like it's way too damn messy. Like, it looks like she wants to be a cutesy, princessy businesswoman. It's just a bit too much for me. Meanwhile, her black design is fucking sick, and I love the galaxy pattern under the skirt and the legging with the galaxy design. Ugh, I love this design, it's just so good. She also received an AI talk voice bank to go along with this new Vocaloid voice bank, which I'm kind of noticing a pattern now with Yamaha's voice banks having a text-to-speech software and a singing voice bank. I wonder if that's trying to copy AH Software's marketing tactic. I'm not sure, but I do notice a pattern here. Because Galico only released on August 5th of this year, which is about last month if I'm on track with this video, I can't see if Galico is going to do super well. Only time will tell, but I hope people give her a chance this time.
Kayuki.
What on earth is Kayuki doing here? You'd think these are all Vocaloids that financially failed and had a miraculous second chance. But here is AH Software's little darling right here. Well, Kayuki is very well received upon release for her adorable design and voice. A update when it came to Vocaloid 3 proved to be a challenge. The biggest issue that comes with updating Kayuki is the fact that she was voiced by an actual child, and so obviously her voice provider is going to grow up and sound different, and this proved true in interviews with AH Software where they confessed that this was the biggest issue in upgrading. However, knowing that all their Vocaloid voice banks would be getting Vocaloid 4 upgrades, the pressure was on to find a new voice provider to help create growl samples and new recordings for smoother transition. They eventually did find a girl who sounded close or identical to her original voice provider, and honestly, I don't notice where the hell the new voice provider is, because that's how identical the new girl sounds mixed with the old one. This was a happy ending only because it propelled Kayuki's popularity, and that's how you end up with hit songs like Kyofu All Back by Yukopi and practically all of Ina Bakamori's catalog. Honestly, I think Kayuki does better than her teacher paired with her, Hiyama Kyoteru. The only question now is, since AH Software has made the transition to Synthesizer V and Chevio AI, will Kayuki get a Synthesizer V or Chevio voice bank? Sadly, I don't think so. It runs into the same issue as her Vocaloid 4's production, and I'd imagine it would be a nightmare for AH Software to find a third child now who can sing exactly like an 8 to 10-year-old girl from 2009. Unless they just do a direct port of the original recordings and just accept that the vocal product will likely be lower quality compared to the others. But hey, watch as I say this, AH Software announces Kayuki for Synthesizer V or Chevio anyway.
Megpoid English.
I think Gumi, or Megpoid as she's officially called, needs no introduction. Internet Co's darling and longtime rival to Hatsune Miku. Now, Gumi has consistently received an update to her Japanese voice bank from Vocaloids 2 to 4, but the issue came with her English release. Released as a Vocaloid 3 voice bank, Megpoid English was likely made to combat with the fact that Miku was getting an English voice bank and Krypton's pink beauty Luca was also a bilingual Vocaloid who was consistently very popular for being bilingual. However, although highly well received and made Internet Co big fucking bucks, the major complaint was that Megpoid V3 English was extremely choppy compared to even Vocaloid 2 voice banks like Sweet Anne. This was an issue with most Vocaloid 3 voice banks anyway, but all of them could be relatively smoothed out with tuning, except Gumi English somehow always sounded choppy to some extent. By the time Vocaloid 4 rolled around and Gumi received a massive Vocaloid 4 expansion, people were begging for an update to Gumi's voice bank, and yet it fell on deaf ears. It's definitely weird to give Gumi this massive Vocaloid 4 collection, only to not include English? Again, super weird to me when some of Gumi's biggest songs were with her English voice bank, like Echo by Crusher P, King by Canaria, and Copycat by Circus P. When Vocaloid 5 came and went with no Gumi update, this was already a big issue because it really made fans believe that Gumi as a voice bank was discontinued altogether. This was a pretty dark time for Vocaloid fans actually, when AH Software announced they would no longer be making Vocaloid voice banks after Haru no Sora, and Zero G announced they would stop creating vocal synthesizers altogether. Except no worries, to everyone's complete jaw-dropping shock, when Vocaloid 6 was announced, Gumi was announced for a Vocaloid 6 with English voice bank thanks to the bilingual capabilities of Vocaloid 6. This meant Gumi finally got her English update after so long, and it was worth it considering Gumi was the least irritating voice bank to work with in Vocaloid 6. Except for even better news when her Synthesizer V voice bank was announced. What's even crazier is that this whole thing has been a major resurgence in Gumi's popularity and has had Internet Co take a massive advertising and promotional turnaround where now they hold all kinds of pop-up events for Gumi. This includes concerts, cafes, merch, promotional material, and even stuff for her AI voice bank and more. I think this massive marketing turnaround is honestly working. When last year I spotted a t-shirt with Gumi and Miku on it at Hot Topic. If you told me years ago that Gumi would be at a major retailer chain like Hot Topic, bro, I would not believe you. Of course, she's still not as big as Miku, because nothing can be as popular as our teal, twin-haired princess, but I think if any Vocaloid has made a massive comeback, it's definitely Gumi. I can only hope that this will happen with other Vocaloids I love, specifically Gakubo, because Internet Co has been advertising new artwork of him to promote since Kentaro Miura's passing in 2021, and he's been at concerts too. Again, not sure if he will due to issues involving Gak's health and management, but I just want to throw my 2 cents that I just want a Gakubo comeback so bad. That'll be the end of this video. Are there any Vocaloids that you want to see get a comeback? As always, let me know down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching! If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. If any of you would like to help support my channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description, along with all of my social media. For any subscribers, new or old, who'd like to help with video ideas, or maybe just want to talk about anime or something, I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!